Welcome to Make Today Count, your 20 minutes of fresh conversation served up to inform, educate and inspire an abundant life. I'm your host Ross Dean, and each episode I chat to thought leaders, influencers and experts in their game who all have one thing in common: the desire to go that extra mile, pushing against the status quo to create a richer life for both themselves and those around them, powered by compassion and driven by the need to leave the world that little bit better than when they arrived. Hey guys, and welcome back to Make Today Count and episode number 9 with Lauren Smith from Reclaiming Interiors. Lauren owns Reclaiming Interiors, a professional decluttering and organising business in Suffolk, where she helps her clients restore the love for their home. Lauren's also a yoga teacher, and when she is not running her businesses, she loves to write children's books and is in the process of publishing her very first book. Hey Lauren, how you doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Nice intro.
I know. Wonder where I got that from. There you go. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been one that I've sort of really been looking forward to, because I think it's something that isn't always kind of touched upon, especially in the sort of the podcast world as such. And I think probably when we're speaking about the subject that we are tonight, I guess people's first kind of contact is maybe via Netflix through Marie Kondo.
Yes.
And kind of the work that she does. But I'm really looking forward to getting a little bit more in depth into kind of about exactly what you do and how you work with clients. But before we sort of go into some of that, I just wondered if people haven't come across your work before, if you could just give us a little bit of background about yourself and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Definitely, yeah. So I would say that my background is in design. So I've designed kitchens and bathrooms, and I've worked on some commercial projects in the past, as well as friends and family who also just take on your services when you've got a skill like that. And so I did that work, and I was in a job, I was doing really well, and I was in my first home that I bought at the time, and I, for some reason, one day just started to declutter, and it wasn't off the back of any documentary or anything that I was reading, I feel like the trend is very sort of now, but this is sort of 3 or 4 years ago now. And I just started decluttering my home. I probably didn't recognize it as that at the time. It was more, I would have said, sort of cleansing and purging. I sort of got a real kick out of just getting rid of all of these things that I'd had, and just slowly got rid of everything that I didn't need anymore. And I just found the whole process and experience really, really amazing. And off the back of that, I ended up leaving my first home, selling and all of that. And I went traveling. And from there, I was able to live out of a suitcase. So I went away for 4 months, living out of a suitcase, missing nothing at all back home. You never do. When you're on holiday, you enjoy living in the moment, being present. And everything that you need to be there and then. And when I got back from traveling, I decided that I wanted to start my own business. And originally the business was going to be sort of upcycling furniture, but then I thought, actually, no, you know what, I'm going to make a go of this organising, because I am very methodical, I'm very organised, and I also want to sort of incorporate some design as well, because I'm really creative. So off the back of that came Reclaiming Interiors. So it wasn't sort of planned, but it seemed like everything that I'd done up to that point had just led me to start it. I'd always wanted to do my own business. I knew from when I was little, I've always wanted to have my own business and sort of build that and be really proud of that. I think because my dad had his own business, and I've always been inspired to do that. So it very happened organically. And when I came back from traveling, I sort of became a yoga teacher as well. I did my teacher training. I also started Reclaiming Interiors. So it was a bit of a whirlwind, but a really good journey. And I'm really excited and happy where I am now, sort of 4 months later. It's amazing.
And I think, when you mentioned also about sort of the yoga and your kind of study in that, I'm guessing there's kind of a real alignment between the two, in that, in that with a lot of the decluttering work, you're kind of clearing your mind and sort of there's a lot of
Mm.
kind of healing in that respect. Do you sort of draw parallels between the two as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, I find it really interesting actually. It's something that I think, some people think might, oh, it's very, different industries, but actually they do lend hand in hand together because it's very much about well-being and how
Mm,
you are, in your mind. And I know myself that if things are not going well, or you're stressed, then what's the first thing to go? It's normally an exercise regime, or a not diet, but healthy living sort of
yeah,
plan, or whatever. And also, the homes then starts to get out of control, and chores that get behind, and everything just sort of feels like it's out of your control. But yeah, I find definitely that both go hand in hand together. And yeah, you kind of just I find now that I'm able to focus my time on what's really important to me, having a nice clear headspace, and that clarity,
yeah.
because I have got lots on, and actually I find now being organized is just essential. It's not, it's not oh, I'm a little bit organized, I have to be now. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's have to practice it. That's the thing with it. You can't, it's not just an overnight thing. It is a learning process, I think.
yeah. So as you mentioned, you're obviously working with clients now going forward as the business kind of grows and grows.
Mm.
I'm guessing, people come to you from all kind of different scenarios, but why do people usually come to you for help with their decluttering? Is there certain things that come up a lot, or or are there kind of all different reasons for that?
Yeah, I would say the sort of most trend is that people come to me as a last resort. People don't come to you, you don't think, oh, I'm having a good day, I'm going to get a professional organizer. It's just not something you do. So I'm often the last resort. Actually clients are feeling fed up, they're stressed, or, they just feel behind, overwhelmed, and completely out of control. And
Yeah.
so, it's probably one of those things late at night, they're thinking, oh, what can I do? They're Googling things, or professional organizer near me, and then
Mm.
and then they find me. But it's definitely, it's an emotional thing. I think, like I said, it's definitely that last resort. I need help now. It's finally admitting that you're needing the help. That
Yeah.
people come, yeah. Which what those first phone calls that you have with clients are often, it's very interesting, because I'm always just very keen to listen in those first
Mm.
consultation calls. It's just important to hear what they need to say, because a lot of the time they will need to just talk and talk and get how they're feeling out, and start offloading, which is all
Mm.
part of the process. It's just
Yeah.
being able to get to that point. You just accepting help and asking for it, and being able to offload to start that new journey.
And often I guess that, having a home which is not in the way that we want to, or maybe is a little bit messy, or sort of cluttered up, is often a marker for other things in our life that maybe not maybe going so well. So,
Mm,
I know in my own experience, if I'm um if I've had a challenging times, that usually gets left, and then I'm guessing that,
mm,
it's a good marker to show that, if I'm in a good space, maybe all my stuff is all how it needs to be. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Whether that's kind of home, work, or anything. So, yeah, that's really interesting. Like you say, is to, it can be lots of other things, and I guess it's just like you say in that first consultative space at the beginning. It's just kind of listening and kind of
Mm,
seeing what clients have got to say. Um, so,
absolutely.
so the whole kind of Marie Kondo thing. Do you think that's brought more people? Do you think it's brought the kind of your industry to the forefront?
Absolutely, yeah, it has. I think there are a lot of organisers that have been doing it for a number of years, and
Yeah.
that documentary's really been out in the last year or two. It's got more and more popular, but
Mm,
I think I think it's just people are a little bit more open-minded. I think it's
yeah.
definitely more an American
Hmm.
thing,
Yeah.
but I think people are becoming a little bit more open-minded to that. And I think, generally British people we can be a little bit tight with our money, and sometimes we think, well, actually, no, I can do that myself. And
Yeah.
and I think also there's maybe a little bit of stigma and the shame of, actually asking for somebody to help.
Mm,
When you come in, I remember when I was on my APDO training, APDO, which is the Association of Declutterers and Organisers, and when I was on my training, they said, actually, so you may need to tell some type of clients that if if I see you out in public, if you don't want me to say hello, if you feel embarrassed, that's
Okay. Oh
fine.
wow.
And I thought,
Okay.
wow, that's a really interesting way of looking at it. Some people would be really proud that they've got an organizer in. Some people would look at it in,
Yeah.
actually, no, I'm really, I'm not coping.
Yeah.
And then there's that shame around it.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess
yes.
I guess that's the same for anything like therapy or anything like that as well, isn't it? You
Yeah.
it could be the same sort of thing. Some people, I think we're in a better place now where it's more general conversation to talk about these things. But similarly, I'm guessing with therapists that kind of work with people, they might not want to know that other people know and all that kind of stuff. Which
Yeah.
I think, like I say, is getting better and it's become more of an open conversation. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think.
It's so interesting, and it's funny you
Yeah,
say about therapists actually, because I'm connecting with another counselor at the moment, because
yeah,
I find with both yoga and my organizing business, that quite often people do sort of really find my presence, a good presence to be able to open up
yeah,
and
yeah.
share, and sometimes I would love to just be able to offer them something else, actually, if you
Okay.
need someone to really talk to
Mm,
as well, a real professional in that field, here's
yeah.
somebody. um, yeah, it's funny how both of those actually lend themselves
Mm,
to people really open up and sharing quite intimate and personal things.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I think in general, kind of Netflix, where sort of the Marie Kondo program is, that's become a really great kind of resource now, because I think they've looked, there's lots of kind of well-being focused programming, I think, now,
There
on
is.
especially on Netflix,
Yeah.
whether it's kind of the Marie Kondo stuff, maybe it's the Queer Eye program as well, where it's kind of
Yes.
helping people out in their houses and sort of you know all this kind of stuff. It's such a good thing.
Mm.
And it's really quite interesting, because I love watching the Queer Eye program, and now
Mhm.
my 8-year-old daughter really loves it, and
Oh, lovely.
watching it for the
Yeah.
reason that it's just helping people out and making people's lives better, and
Mm.
she loves that. And if you think about the programming we have across our whole TV, it's nice to have something that's really positive,
Definitely.
and that can really sort of connect and touch people. So it's really good. Um, when it comes to sort of decluttering or sort of rearranging our homes, what do you, sorry, what's the best way to put that? Why do you think we sometimes put these things off, in your experience?
I would say, just trying to think from a personal point of view, why would I put it off?
Hmm.
I would put it off because, I mean, I'm the sort of person that when I want to do something, I want to do it properly.
Yeah.
So I would want to be able to do it, and really give my all to it.
Hmm.
And something like decluttering is not something that you just think, oh, half-heartedly, I'll do it. It does take commitment. It takes time. I think a lot of people feel like they haven't got the time to do it, and not knowing where to start is
Yeah.
the big one. Because like I said before, you don't do it when the home's, quite good. You do it when it's at the worst. You think it has to be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
That choice is completely removed. So you just do it as a final resort.
Hmm.
um, but also I think it's not having the right methodology or strategies to know where to start, how's best to start, having a plan. I
Yeah.
find a lot of my clients and people that I know have just done it on impulse, which
Okay.
is it's I find that quite interesting, because there's not many other things, like a lot of people may think I'll start a diet on impulse, but really, to be able to commit and to make long-term change, you have to be fully ready,
Yeah.
mentally in the right
Yeah.
headspace to be able to commit to follow through with it.
Hmm.
um, and yeah, I think it's actually really interesting. When I did a workshop a couple of weeks ago, which was helping mums to declutter with the children before Christmas,
Yeah.
and everybody was in agreement that we shouldn't be sort of forcing children to declutter when we want. We should sort of schedule it with them. We should,
Hmm.
make a plan, make a schedule, make a deadline, set time aside, and really plan for it. But
Yeah.
that's, I think, where people go wrong, is they just do it on impulse, and the house gets turned upside down.
Yeah. And
And
I think
also,
I was just going to say also, it's just time, I guess, for people, isn't it?
it
It's
is.
such a time is such a precious thing for everyone, and we've got so much going on. Um,
Yes.
I think it's sometimes it's just like, right, I know I need to have it done, but
Mhm.
at the moment I just don't have the time, and I guess that's where it sometimes gets brushed aside.
Yeah, but it's like anything. I believe, like, health is an investment. I feel like good
Yeah,
health is just a tool to get you to do those things that you really want to do. And I do believe
yeah,
having a home that's in that way is also
mm,
it should be a tool to use to get you to do the things in life that you really want to
mm,
do. It shouldn't be that last, final thing that I'll think, oh, I'll do that. That shouldn't be the last priority, is what I'm trying to say. I think
yeah,
it should be the highest priority. That should be the maintenance level. Good health, good home.
yeah.
That should be that level
And I think,
here.
and I think it's like anything, if you don't know, you don't know. So if
Yeah.
you're not aware of these kind of services or this kind of mindset exists, then
Mm,
maybe you're at the moment you'll find your own time at some point that'll be perfect for you. And
definitely.
if at that time you want to seek help, then you can do as well.
Yeah. And
It's
it's interesting because I think money is also a bit of a barrier for some people to actually hire a professional organizer. But then
okay.
you think, well, actually, most professional organisers, and I do, offer a free home consultation. So,
Hmm.
that's a no obligation thing from me.
Yeah,
It's just to kind of get to meet them, see how the vibe is, see how that rapport is, see if it would work, see what they need, and
yeah,
formulate an action plan. So you're not committing to anything, but I think it's just having that headspace to be in a point where you're actually ready to do it.
yeah,
Um, I think it's how ready you are on a scale of sort of 1 to 10. Where are you on that
yeah,
that range?
yeah.
um, because as soon as I tell anybody what I do, the first thing it says, "Oh, I need you." I've not had one person think that has said to
Yeah.
me, "Oh, well, I don't need you." Like,
Mm,
everybody has said, "Oh, well, I could do with you."
yeah.
But it's, I think sometimes people say it's a throwaway comment, and sometimes people, will really do it when they just need it. But
Yeah. I think sometimes just people just need an opportunity to take things up. And,
mm,
if you're having a conversation, if it resonates with you, you're going to know at that point if it's going to be perfect for you at that time. Um,
definitely.
with, as and when you take sort of new clients on and you sort of have those, as you say, you have that kind of free consultation or those first kind of chats about what they want to achieve, what do you find that most kind of households are doing wrong or innately struggling with in those early stages?
Well, the most sort of obvious answer I'd probably say is not starting
Hmm.
at all.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And not even making a dent in it or attempting to do it.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest thing. But again, I would say starting on impulse. And when people then do it, they start early or they start late at night, and then they're going through till early hours, or they're going all day and they physically exhaust themselves.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest problem.
Hmm.
And I think it's one of those things that if you work smart, you will get so much more done, and people will end up
Okay.
procrastinating. I've seen sort of funny internet memes. It's like when you start decluttering, and then there's this person wearing like a hat and got like
Yeah.
goggles on, and like
Yeah.
all these
Yeah.
things like random that you pick up, and then you end up like looking through photographs, and it's, that's lovely, but that's not getting to the point of the problem. It's not helping to
Hmm.
solve, the bigger issue. So yeah, I would definitely say that exhausting yourself is definitely doing it wrong, and
Hmm.
also not finishing. A lot of
Okay.
people will also maybe start and not finish it to a point that it's reasonable to maintain.
Yeah.
um, and probably the last thing I would say is also not having a deadline. Like I said, just
Hmm.
going flat out all day, and then, yeah, being knackered by the end of it, which is just not fun. And
Hmm.
then, you don't want to do it again. It puts you off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say.
That's really interesting. Like you were saying, I think with a lot of these things, when we get an idea that we're going to do something, sometimes we just set this unachievable goal straight off the
Mm,
bat, where we think we're going to get the whole house sorted in a morning, or something silly like that, and then
mm,
you try sort of running against that goal, and then you don't achieve it, and then you've probably got quite a lot achieved in that
yeah.
time, but because you haven't got immediately what you thought you'd set out yourself to do, you sort of think, well,
Yes.
oh, I'm never going to be able to do this then, so I'm just going to stop and do something else, or that kind of
Mm,
thing. So what I'm hearing is that these initial conversations with you are really, I guess, for you to kind of listen to what the challenges are, and then for you to create kind of a plan for how to approach that next period of time, whether that's kind of a day, a week, a month, a year, whatever that is,
Yeah.
in sort of manageable steps, I guess, because with what you're doing, for someone that hasn't used the service before, I'm guessing there's a lot of trust there. You're allowing
Mm,
someone into your house for the first time that you maybe
yeah.
haven't met before. So I guess there's kind of just a lot of kind of conversation and trust building in those early stages.
Absolutely. I think that's why it's so important that, I mean, I would only work with somebody if I've met them beforehand, because
Mm,
I just think that's really important. And it's what I do is probably more personal than most jobs.
goodness,
You
yeah, of
are
course.
literally going through every nook and cranny in their home,
Mm,
and you can find some interesting stuff.
yeah.
And it's having someone that you really do trust and you feel comfortable with, from a place of not being judged. I think that's, especially if somebody is feeling a bit ashamed of where they've allowed it to get to.
Mm.
It's just that fear of being judged, and just, yeah, I just, for me, I mean, I try and explain to my clients, because that's another thing that a lot of people say is, "Am I your worst client?" That's what I always hear. Am I your
Yeah,
worst?
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
there's no way you can really answer that, because
No,
they're not
no.
either. And I
I,
always
I
sort of go back to saying, when I was a designer and designing kitchens and bathrooms, that I tell them I have seen it all. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you do not have to worry.
Yeah,
Um,
but I think that's that thing that if before we haven't shared it with anyone, so all the conversations we have in our own head are all we know,
yeah,
So we think that although our house probably isn't, the worst in the world, you're sitting there thinking, "Oh my goodness, what is Lauren going to think when she comes round?"
yeah,
And it's probably why you get asked that question quite a lot, because you sort of immediately jump to the fact that yours is going to be the worst
yes,
house you've ever seen. Um,
exactly.
I'm guessing also as well, we kind of have these, I guess these, sometimes we refer to them as sort of personalities, or when it comes to kind of managing our household. And what I mean by that is that, to give a personal example, so my kind of ethos around things is, at home, is if I'm not using it, I'm quite happy to throw it out, or I'm quite happy to
Mhm.
pass it on or recycle it or give it to charity or whatever, that kind of thing. Now my wife on the other side, she likes to store things. She likes
Yeah.
to hold on to things, because we, in inverted commas, might need it someday.
Yes, the
So
just in case is famous in
yeah,
the
so
professional organising world.
I'm guessing I'd be interested to know, like, if you're going into a household where maybe there's that different dynamic,
Mm.
um, how does that kind of work? And because do you, if it was a, do you tend to work with, if it's a household, do you work with the couple? Do you work with one side of the couple? How does that usually work in the experience of the clients you've worked with?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the clients I've worked with so far,
Mm.
it's always been one person that's reached out.
Yeah.
They would have already had the conversation that,
Okay.
actually I need help.
Yeah.
And luckily I've not had it so far, when I've gone round to a clients and then a partner comes home and they're like, what is going on here? So it seems to me that that conversation has always taken place.
Mm.
I'm always very welcomed in, and I think it's, yeah, I think the dynamic's interesting, because I always try to meet everybody. I think it's important to
Mm.
meet everybody in the home, see what everybody's needs are, not just the need
Yeah.
of the person who's
Yeah.
actually reached out to me.
Yeah.
And to also get everybody on board, because
Mm.
every household is different, everyone in the household is different, and you need everybody to be on the same hymn sheet. um, because I've worked with one client, and it's funny because they all call each other hoarders. And and actually none of them would be classified as of having a hoarding disorder. It's very
Yeah.
much a sort of a throwaway comment that people use, but
Yeah.
actually they all think that each other have a worse problem than them,
Okay.
which I find really interesting. And yeah, so it's definitely important to get everybody on board in the family, go through and really make sure that everybody's happy, and just see where everybody's headspaces are, where everybody is on that sort of readiness scale, if everybody is wanting to really get going. And depending on where that person is, might decipher where you start. If it's the daughter's the most up and raring to go, you may start in her room. Or if it's
Yeah, sure.
the mums, and you'll start with an area of hers. But what's really interesting is, as soon as you sort of start it in a household where there's a family
Yeah.
dynamic, it's quite inspiring. And actually,
Mm.
that's the word I've got from clients is it's inspired me to do this, or it's inspired
Yeah.
me to have a go,
Yeah.
which is really nice, because you do want everybody to be feeling it,
Yeah.
and just enjoying that new change, because I do believe that my service is a service that you actually don't want people to want you to call again.
Okay.
um
Yeah.
you know in the nicest possible way. You will get some clients that will need a check-in every now and again, but I
Mm.
want to put in places and strategies that will be long-term, that they will be able to sustain
Mm.
and keep up.
And I guess it's just learning, and then giving them the tools to empower themselves to know that if
Yeah,
things get out of line again, they can kind of put it back into place again, I suppose.
exactly. And it's being able to recognize at what point you are there. You know, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Perfect. So we've spoken a little bit about kind of some of the kind of either myths we tell ourselves about, or why we can't potentially get help, or why we can't start. One of the ones you mentioned was kind of like the investment, the monetary investment in getting someone to sort of help you with this kind of thing. Are there any other kind of resistance, or any other sort of things that people say that when they're sort of thinking that it might be something they want to get involved with, but then they kind of sort of poo-poo at a later date? Is there other things that sort of come up as kind of myths that we tell
Um,
ourselves?
I It's a hard one, because I'm trying to sort of think from a personal point of view, because I
Mm,
generally find once a client gets in contact, they want to follow it through. So
yeah.
um any resistance?
So I'm guessing maybe, we've spoken about monetary aspect. Maybe they think that they're going to have to invest too much time maybe in it, that maybe
I would guess
at the
maybe time
beginning.
might be.
Yeah. Or like we said before, people might just think, oh, my house is too much of a mess, you can possibly help.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I
um,
haven't had that one yet, but I'm sure
yeah.
I'm sure there will be that.
Yeah.
And But yeah, I'd probably say the time thing, because also, I mean, sometimes you can really get on a roll, and you can go quicker than you're expecting to, and other
Yeah.
times, actually it can take a lot longer, that decision, particularly in the beginning. You will find that clients, they do need the guidance, they do need that hand holding, but actually after a session or a couple of hours, it depends on every person, but they really do
Mm.
get on a roll and they get into it. But yeah, that's just very dependent on the person, and what you're dealing with, and how sentimental that attachment to those things are.
Yeah, I think like any sort of step in a new direction, it usually comes from maybe a point where you've a challenge has come to the point where you can't sort of deal with it any longer, and you need to get help. Or maybe
Mm,
I'm guessing you may get clients, or maybe in the future, where there's maybe life changes in the family, maybe
yes.
where there's maybe in a marriage has parted ways, or maybe
Mm,
the kids have maybe gone to university, or maybe there's a new baby in the family. I guess there's also life kind of changes that kind of prompt some of this stuff as well.
absolutely. That's sort of every one of my services is geared around a big life change, whether it's
Mm,
moving or it's downsizing. A lot of those, there comes a point where you need to address things in the home. So there's,
mm,
yeah, and like you said, with the empty nesting or nesting, and all of those things,
yeah.
it definitely comes from a place of big change in the
Mm,
home and the family dynamic. Or also changing circumstances. If somebody's bereaved, that's also another one.
yeah.
That we have to help with as well. I say have
Another.
to, I do help, and I enjoy helping.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess, other than kind of the the obvious of after you've worked with a client, um they have a beautiful organized home, and they've maybe passed things on, and maybe they've now got a new lease of life with another family, or
Mm,
elsewhere. I'm guessing that there's going to be a lot of kind of knock on positive effects by going through this process, in regards to their mental health, in regards to sort of how they generally feel about themselves. Can you speak a little bit about your thoughts around kind of like sort of the general other benefits that maybe people aren't, they don't immediately come to mind for people, but after the effect, they sort of think, oh, this has really sort of helped me in these areas?
definitely, I would say, probably the biggest one is the physical side, because
Mm,
actually people feel like they've got space to go and do things that are really important to them. They maybe feel they've got the headspace to continue exercising and that kind of thing again.
yeah.
Uh, also I would say the money side, because people, if it's done properly, which I always really try to ensure I get my message throughout, is to be really mindful of purchases in the future and not
Mm.
just impulsively buying things. And I find that people will often give me feedback that, actually I am being more conscious in my spending and my budgeting, and that was quite alarming to me. And I think also for myself,
Okay.
I found that you know actually I stopped buying things that I didn't need to, and I thought
Mm.
twice about it. Because if you when you go through that buying process, if you actually think, how am I going to dispose of this, how long will I need it, if you really ask yourself those questions,
Mm.
then you really just end up having things that you really do need, and things that really do make you feel good.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say that money is a really good benefit of having a professional organizer.
Yeah.
And it's definitely an investment. You spend out to have one, but
Mm.
actually you get a lot of knowledge, you get a new way of thinking, a new mindset around it.
It's two really interesting things you just mentioned there. First being that, often when people are maybe clearing out stuff, they maybe have an opportunity, especially things like furniture or things like that, to maybe to resell them. So
Yes.
effectively, if there's a kind of a resistance in regards to working with you from the off, it there's a realization that maybe you're actually helping them make more money than they invested. There
Exactly.
could be that benefit as well. And the other interesting thing you mentioned there that kind of links back to what we were saying before is that around our spending, maybe it's only at the point where we actually look at the possessions that we have, and there's like we hit a brick wall on the realization that what have I been spending my money on. and
Yes.
and maybe there's an element of shame there that is the sort of the resistance in getting someone to help you, because you think,
Yes.
oh my goodness, I can't at the moment, I can't understand that I spent this amount on this or this amount on this, or
Hmm.
I've been buying the same thing over and over again and blah blah blah. And so that it's interesting, isn't there? There's sort of all these dynamics
Hmm.
around
Yeah.
what could be going through our minds at the time. And I think shame might be a really sort of interesting sort of aspect that people might be sort of coming up against.
Definitely. I was just wanted to sort of add to that. I mean,
Mm.
basically what I'm doing essentially is I'm helping people stock take every single item in their home.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're going
Yeah,
through
yeah, yeah.
every single item in your home. I don't know what the stats are for England, but I think like the average American home, I tried to find it
Mm.
for England before and I couldn't find it, but the average American household has something like 300,000 individual items. That's
Wow.
just unfathomable. And you think every single one of those items that you've brought into your home has a story, that has a history, it has a reason how it got into your home, why it's there, why you continue to do it. So you can see how people just put that decision making off, and
Mm.
it's just sort of whittling down to the things that you really do need.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found it alarming when I found that out. 300,000
It's
things.
interesting, isn't it?
Crazy. I think
I
for
think
me it's definitely hair grips, but
and
and I
every
don't
and
even
it
use them actually.
yeah. And every guy's got a man drawer somewhere where they've got
They
just loads
do.
of old batteries,
Yes.
you know, kits that you got with IKEA to put them together, but you might think that you might need them at some point, even though you
Exactly.
haven't got the furniture anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Buttons from
yeah,
clothing. you know.
coupons that you
Yeah.
thought you'd keep, but they're in fact they're about 5 years old.
Exactly.
You know,
Old keys from old houses, all of
yeah,
these things. And gadgets being one of the biggest ones as well. People
yeah,
holding on to gadgets that we just don't need anymore.
yeah.
Um,
I was going to say plastic bags, but we haven't hardly got any plastic bags anymore. So it used to
no,
be that you'd have a bag full of other bags that you'd have
I
probably
know.
under the sink or something. But which is a good thing from another point of view that we're not using
Yeah.
those. But no, it's really funny now when we sort of got, oh, we've got a plastic bag. It's like, no, I haven't.
Yeah, definitely.
What am I going to put my stuff in? Oh my goodness.
Exactly. It's
Um,
crazy.
oh, that's really
But
interesting.
I mean, the other thing I would say as well, one of the
Mm.
other benefits is people get a lot more from giving. So I think there was a study
Yeah,
done before that when people give to charity, they get a real rush of,
yeah,
endorphins in the body, and it makes you just feel really good.
mm. Yeah,
Whereas compared with, when you buy something, and if it's something, you get that buyer's remorse, and you kind of get that doubt, and that feeling is not as long as it would for if you're giving to charity,
mm.
which I found really interesting as well. So
Yeah.
that again is another benefit. It does make you feel good.
Yeah, I mean that's such a great point, and also there's so many causes that can really do with a lot of this stuff that
Yeah,
we take for granted. Then it's such, what better way to kind of recycle some of this stuff is to give it to those that really would need it this time.
definitely.
No, definitely. Um, if someone, so they've thought about it, they're in the position where they think, oh, I really want to work with someone. What would be your kind of recommendations or guidance for when you're looking for someone to work with, that you kind of look out for?
I would say to definitely look at the differences between the different organisers, because
Yeah,
every organiser will have a USP. Everyone will have their own unique twist and their own experiences. So I would say it's important to look at maybe the background of that organiser and see how that resonates with them.
yeah,
I would also say to have a look at the way that, I mean, the way that they also present themselves, because I think it's important. I think that sometimes people wouldn't necessarily get like a couple of quotes, or get a couple of organizers in. I think people are,
yeah,
with professional organizing, I think people tend to pick quite quickly who they're going to go for, and
yeah,
that's only based on the feedback I've received from my clients.
definitely,
But
yeah,
I think I think it's important to definitely look at the way in which you maybe connect with that organizer. So somebody was telling me before, that they've been picked because they've got children, and
mm,
someone might not be picked because they have children. It's very, I think there's also that personal element, because
mm,
you build such a, and I've found I've really built relationships with my clients because it is so personal. It's
mm.
definitely important to find somebody that you think you will connect with, and become comfortable with having, in the home.
And I'm guessing also, there's no better recommendation than getting a personal recommendation from someone that who maybe have used
Yeah,
that service before. So, if you may not know that, you may think that, none of your friends have kind of used it, but kind of reach out, maybe post something on social media or something and say, look, has anyone used this? And you might find that, someone has. And then, if it's someone you sort of know, like, and trust in that respect, it's really, you can have a chat and sort of get a real feel for what it was like to work with them.
yeah,
Um, and like we've mentioned before, it's such a personal thing where it just kind of comes down to having a conversation. Are they a good fit for you? Does their personality sit well with you? Does their kind of the way that they work sit well with you? And sort of coming on to that, how would you work with someone? You sort of take us through the kind of the bare bones of the process for kind of from a from the moment a client kind of gets in contact to kind of like fruition to the end of the process. Give us kind of a step by step on what it would maybe be like for, if I was coming to you, what would my
mhm.
kind of journey be with working with you?
Yeah, so you'd have that initial contact, which is usually by phone,
Yeah,
and we have a long chat or short chat, however that long they want to chat. Try to get as much information as I can, so that I'm prepared when I organise that free home consultation.
yeah,
Just understanding the family dynamic, if they're, if it is a family or someone on their own, just making sure that you have all of that information, and coming to the free home consultation. So making sure that hopefully everyone can be present for it, and again, just trying to get the needs of everybody. It's not always viable, but if possible, it's always good to try and speak to people individually as well, but that's a
yeah.
lot more tricky. Um, so yeah, definitely, go through the home consultation, finding out, and I the biggest part of the home consultation is getting a tour.
Okay, yeah.
Not a nosy tour, but actually, it's very, very eye-opening, because what you find when people are guiding around the house, around the home, is they often pick out the negative points. You don't
Okay.
often see clients say, well, I really love this area. It's often, oh, this area brings me stress, or this area
Mm,
reminds me of a certain time of my life, or this bit is worrying me the most. And so it's really important on that sort of that tour of the home that you really get to grips with what areas they're really struggling with, and need the help with the most. And after that, you sort of arrange the date and the times that you want to do, and every client will be different. Some clients would just need, a sort of a couple of visits or a one visit, and they can get on their own. Some other clients may need hand holding, and that's a term that actually I find sort of got from my clients, is hand holding,
Yeah.
and they want you to be there for every single step of the way.
Okay.
And it's really interesting because some people are just so different. Some people will just need a couple of visits, and then they might get you back to help organise after they've started on their own. And yeah, and again, you might get somebody that wants you to be there until the very end. And
Mm.
it's very different for everybody. I've worked with some clients just once, or I've worked with somebody ongoing. It depends on their times, how what that availability is like, and deadlines, because often I found people want to get started and finished by a certain date. um,
Okay.
they've often got an end in sight or a reason that's really brought this on. And this time of year, it's definitely Christmas, which is why I've been quite
Mm.
busy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, that family coming round, that's sort of forced upon us, isn't it? So having people around more, it forces you to confront the home.
Yeah.
Definitely. So sorry, yeah, I was just going to add to that. And then if you wanted to, you could continue with spatial planning. So some clients would want to sort of go that next step further, because
Mm.
what you can find is once you've decluttered, if you've really gone for it, they can feel like the home looks a bit sparse. And
Okay.
it's sort
Yeah.
of then sometimes clients will think, well, actually, no, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy things and I want to replace it. It feels empty. It doesn't feel like home.
Yeah.
And it can quite often sort of spur on a redecoration. And that's, there where you come in with the interior styling and spatial planning. That you do as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. With so say if we've gone through that kind of process and we've come to the end and we've achieved the goals that we're hoping to when it came to our home, I guess from that point it's just kind of keeping a grip on things to make sure it doesn't go in the other direction from what it started from.
Mm.
What sort of tips would you give to people how to kind of keep that consistent and kind of making sure that going forward, you sort of keep up to all the hard work you've done already?
Yeah, I would say probably one of the most helpful things is to take after photos. I mean, I always take after photos with permission of my clients anyway.
Yeah.
To take after photos, but actually have them somewhere handy
Okay.
and not just sort of forget about them, because that sets your benchmark, against yourself. And
Mm.
some clients will, they're sort of looking at maybe Marie Kondo or Pinterest and all these things,
Yeah.
and that's not their life. They're
Yeah.
kind of setting their
Yeah.
benchmarks on somebody else's life. So I would say having that photo reference, as a benchmark for yourself is quite important, to go back to if you are sort of feeling like things are slipping.
Yeah.
I would definitely say to also check in on a regular basis, and
Okay.
actually maybe sort of rotating one room once a month, because
Yeah.
say you've got a house of 8 rooms, 8 months you can go through, and that's a nice amount of time to keep on top of everything.
Yeah.
But you also might need, if you've got less rooms, it might be quicker than that, or you can
Mm.
focus on the weaker areas that are your weaker areas, and we all have them. Everybody has a strong point and a weak point, me too, but I know what those are, I recognize what they are, and I have to be mindful to stay on top of them.
Yeah.
So it's just like an exercise. If you really want to sort of see results, you have to be consistent, you have to stay with it, and practice it. Staying consistent with a decluttered, tidy home does take practice,
Yeah.
definitely.
And you mentioned before as well as that, there's a sort of a plethora of other kind of follow-on services that I
Mm.
saw from your website. That's something you kind of offer as kind of a next stage. Can you sort of talk us through some of the different sort of other kind of services that kind of clients sometimes move into and kind of what they're all about?
Yeah, so spatial planning I'll talk about first, because I think that's a lot of people think, well, what is spatial planning?
Hmm.
It's not anything to do with space, like physical, outer world space. But it's so I would tend to do that anyway when you are decluttering and then that organizing stage. But it's changing the layout of a room to be much more practical, much more functional, but still aesthetic. So it's kind of creating that balance, that harmony between form and function, and just making sure that it's suitable. And I think
Yeah.
for me, the background when I was designing kitchens and bathrooms, I'm a very methodical person, that, I would only plan something if I feel like it's going to be more practical for that person. And
Yeah.
sometimes people don't even understand or recognize that they do something a particular way that could be done better.
Yeah.
I've got one client, and I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying, because we had a really good laugh about it. But she'd lived in her home for 4 years, and she sort of, emptied all of her, when she unpacked, she did everything and put it in where she needed it to be. But when we got round and we were going through it turned out she was keeping all of her underwear in a box under the bed. So every
Okay.
single day she was having to go under the bed, pulling out this box to out her underwear,
Yeah.
when, she could have just put it in the chest of drawers, which we did. We changed that around. But,
Mm.
and she laughed about it. I don't know if she was embarrassed. I think she just thought, why have I done that? But
Mm.
you become blind to these ways that you live and you work, until somebody actually offers you a more practical,
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah.
So definitely.
And a lot of these things just save you time as well in the long run, don't they?
They do. They really do. They save you time, and it's just, more easy to maintain, and also clean, because that cleaning aspect is a big part of, decluttering and organising.
Yeah.
No one, actually, that's wrong. Some people do enjoy cleaning. I don't mind cleaning, but I think, some people just hate it. But if you had a space that's designed or, configured in a way that minimizes that, it's so much easier, you
Yeah.
know. Mm.
So that's another great service to sort of think about, sort of later on in the stages. Any others that kind of stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, my styling, is also one as well. So I can help people with, creating mood boards and creating, furniture fittings and specifications for designs.
Yeah.
And I do that in mind of a long term. I try to be very consistent with my values of not being, too following fast fashions, and I want it to be a long
Mm.
term sustainable design, because for me now, interior design is much more about well-being and how you feel in a space. It's much
Yeah.
more emotional, and I think that came a lot from doing my master's degree. It was very, philosophical, I can't say the word now.
Philosophical.
That's the
Is
one.
that right?
Yeah,
I'm second guessing myself now when I've
there
said
we
it.
go. Yeah, I'll leave you with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's once you really start sort of getting into what home is and what that means,
Mm.
I find that really, empowering, and it, home doesn't need to spend thousands of pounds to look and feel good. It can help, and certainly I
Yeah.
appreciate those things,
Yeah.
but actually it's not necessary.
Yeah.
It's kind of just giving people reassurance that what they have is enough, because I think
Mm.
that's often a trend when people end up spending too much money and they're trying to keep up with friends or all these things, but it's knowing what you have is that you're happy with and you're content
Mm.
with, and just, you in a much more intentional way.
And I'm guessing that probably comes out a lot in, with your clients after you've worked with them, in the fact that maybe they've gone through, maybe they've seen that maybe they've been spending a lot of money in a certain area, and maybe,
Mm,
they've now passed these on to other people. And then I think it just gives you a wider sense of gratitude for, what you're able to have in your home, what you've, also what you've been able to help others, by
mm-hmm.
moving some of this thing on, and maybe just giving you a kind of a clearer sort of mindset going forward around, that exact thing you just said.
Mm,
I only need X really to function in a way that's more healthy for me in all aspects of it, whether it's monetary, sort of, health inspired, and all these kind of things.
definitely.
um and also, like you said, with the interior styling, that was something really interesting as well, because I'm guessing a lot of people come out with such excitement that they've now got this space, that's
Yes,
now not clearer, and they want to now take that step forward. They want to enhance their home in different areas. So it's
mm,
I imagine it's a really sort of exciting time for someone that's kind of gone through that, to then sort of look forward to the future, and how can, you know Lauren now help me with all these other areas.
definitely. And I love that sort of journey, because you do see such a change from somebody from the beginning.
Mm.
When that initial first contact that they have, and then you've worked with them throughout that whole process, and sometimes that can be, over a week, or sometimes that can be over months, and actually
Mm.
seeing that progression and change in a person, that's the best thing I love about what I do, because you just
Yeah.
really do see a transformation in somebody. I got a lovely message from one of my clients last night who said, you've really given our family something special, and that's
Wow.
just priceless. It's so
Yeah.
different to some, other jobs that I've had. It's just, you get so much
Mm.
satisfaction out of that.
And I'm guessing also, when someone sees the benefits in their own home, they're probably thinking in, what other areas can I use this methodology? And, so the one that immediately comes to my mind is that, if you're someone that's maybe running a business, you may find that, maybe have an office space, maybe have a small company with people that work with you, are a lot of these kind of sort of some of this methodology I can't talk now, Lauren. Methodology, are they kind of transferable to the business space? I imagine that a lot of them are.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can. So some organisers will help, business owners and do the more sort of digital side, and actually helping
Okay.
with office space, and
Yeah.
there is that side. But I think the biggest thing is it just gives you that clarity, even if you work with a business owner, for them to be able to do that themselves as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's
And if you were
very
to
interesting.
ask, like I am now, if you were to ask, you know, what does it really boil down to for you? What do you really feel the benefits of working, with a professional in this area of decluttering? What would you say to someone that would ask you in sort of a couple of lines?
The reason why it's better to do
Yeah,
with somebody than on your own,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I would think to just remain on target to a specific goal.
Hmm.
Um, I would say just having that person with you just keeps you focused, stops you
Hmm.
procrastinating, and kind of helps you celebrate the small successes.
Hmm. Okay. Oh, that's huge as well, isn't it?
Mm,
Recognizing some of those things that you may not think you've achieved.
yeah,
Like any area of life, any goal that you're working towards is so important to kind of celebrate those small wins, isn't it?
it really is. It really is. And I think sometimes just having that support to have someone there with you doing that is really invaluable.
Mm. And like you said before, the thing that you mentioned before was that sort of phrase of hand holding as well.
Mm,
Just having someone to sort of put ideas to and kind of help through the process. This is probably something you haven't done before, so you're
yeah,
looking for a mentor, like anything in sort of any area of advancement in your life. And
definitely.
it's just kind of it's so important, isn't it? I think to just have someone to guide you and to keep you on track and keep you accountable, I guess.
Yeah, accountability is a big one. And I think for some clients, just having somebody some clients would want to sort of a firmer tact than others. Some
Yeah.
people would really need that, and it's good to gauge that in that initial consultation. How much do you want me to be, how much do you need from me, and just getting those expectations. And
Mm.
yeah, and then also just following through with that. And it's also good because if you have somebody fresh eyes on it, they will always pick up on things that you won't notice yourself. um,
Mm.
yeah, so definitely.
So, Lauren, I know that a lot of people are going to be listening to this, and there's obviously it's been a wealth of knowledge and some really great chat that we've been having a chat over the past nearly an hour for. And people maybe want to sort of start to explore some of this stuff. I'm conscious of what we've spoken about before in regards to not wanting to go out and do a ton of stuff or set yourself such a big goal that maybe you sort of fall at the first hurdle. If someone was listening to this now and maybe they wanted to take that first step, in maybe tomorrow, just making a small step in getting them a little bit further than where they were yesterday, what would be sort of an ideal kind of starting place, do you think?
Good question. I would have to sort of refer to to a Tony Robbins quote. I do love a
Okay.
quote.
Yeah.
And he says something along the lines of, if you talk about it, it's a dream. If you envision it, it's possible. But if you schedule it, then it becomes real. And I think
Okay. Yeah.
the most important thing is to schedule something, whether
Okay.
that's just going to be a half an hour blitz of something,
Yeah.
um, you know, and just set maybe a small, even if it's like an hour, half an hour, a small amount of time
Mm.
to just really focus on one thing, whether it's one cupboard or one shelf, or just one area that you think will actually really make a difference to you, but setting
Mm.
that first point in the diary to really focus on.
Do you know, it's really interesting through some of the other conversations I've had with other guests on the podcast. This is a similar thread that runs all the way through. So to give some examples, I've spoken about social media. The problem was that maybe we don't always remember to do our social media posts at certain points. Well, what
Hmm.
you can do is you can put time in the diary aside every day, every week, whatever's, however
Mm,
often you need to. Once it's in there, it's done. If you had a meeting, you'd put it in the diary and you'd turn up, wouldn't you? So
yeah.
no reason why I can't do that. Another conversation we had was around fitness. I haven't got time to do, a 10, 15 minute exercise, yoga, whatever it is in the morning.
Mm,
Okay, so what you do is you put it in your diary. You have an alarm that
yeah.
goes off on your phone. It's really interesting that it is a similar thread that runs through all these things. And so, just with this one kind of, I guess, a tool or an approach to this kind of thing, we can sort of tick off a lot of these little things in our lives by
Mm,
just holding ourselves accountable, I guess, and putting it in the diary.
definitely. Definitely. It's just that being more productive with your time, isn't it?
Yeah,
It really is productivity. It will always get you to the things that are most important. I think it's just important to prioritize, what is most important to you.
yeah. So that's it. If you listen to this and you're going to take that tip forward, so maybe you've got a sock drawer that's overfilling with socks tomorrow. Maybe you can do that tomorrow and just to sort that out. At the end of the day, you can look back on your sock drawer, and the next day when you go and get your socks out, the following morning, you'll see all these lovely socks all near where you are. You won't have to hunt through them. You won't have to find the odd ones and end up going to work with odd socks or whatever problem you have with
Exactly.
that. There's something that you can do in that. Oh, that's
Definitely.
great. I can hear all these minds whirring in the background as people listening to it. So it's that's really helpful. Thank you, Lauren. I know you've got lots going on with all the different aspects of what you do.
Yeah.
But what have you got coming up? Anything in particular you're sort of excited to be working on?
Yeah, I'm working on doing another workshop at the moment. So I'm the one I really want to focus on is helping people declutter their wardrobes. And
Okay.
I also think doing a wardrobe declutter is a sort of a good step into decluttering the whole house, because clothes, we compared to everything else in the home, I would say we have the least amount of emotional attachment to. If you're
Okay.
able to just nail that,
Yeah.
actually the rest of the home, you'll be on that roll, you'll be in that headspace, you'll be on that, that momentum to then look to do other areas.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely say that that's one of the most exciting things I've got coming up. And I'm also working on doing another workshop which will be about sort of organising kitchens, because
Oh
January
wow. Okay.
time is massive for people thinking, right,
Mm.
I'm going to get a new kitchen.
Yeah.
Particularly with my background and designing kitchens, I know that that's what people wait for is January. So
Mm.
I think it would be a good time to offer a workshop to get people to think really what they want that to look like, because with something like that you just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And I think my background, as well as being how methodical and practical I can be, I think
Yeah.
it'd be really good to do more.
That's perfect. I think, as we approach the Christmas period, if you listen to this, we're now approaching the Christmas in 2019, and I think it's a time when a lot of people will be receiving gifts in the next sort of month or so,
Yes.
which maybe means that there's more room for other things to be moved on. So yeah, I mean, January I imagine would be a very busy time for you, and lots of great kind of sorting out for your clients.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, and then dealing with the aftermath of Christmas. Yes.
If people want to kind of keep an eye on what you're doing and kind of follow what you're doing and maybe find out about some of these events in the coming, where's the best place online to kind of connect with you?
I would definitely say it would be Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. So I'm
Uh,
on all of those, and it's Flaming Interiors. So
and
I would
also on
definitely,
the website as well, I'm guessing.
yeah, on my
Yeah.
website, and I've got my blog on there as well. But all of my socials, I link back to what's going on the blog as well.
Yeah. I think from someone that sort of observes what you do as well, I think Instagram's a really powerful tool for you.
Mm,
It's quite a visual thing, but
yes.
also through the use of stories, you're able to kind of give insights on what it's like to work with your clients. So I think if anyone's watching this that wants to get a feel for Lauren and how she kind of approaches this kind of thing, is Instagram is a really good sort of gateway to kind of what you do
Yes. Yeah,
in
I'd
that
say that's
respect.
that's what I use the most. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably the best place to get me.
Well, thanks so much for your time, Lauren. It's been wonderful to have a chat, and it's been really nice recently to get to know you a little bit more and to find out today as to what's going on with your business. I think the work that you're doing is kind of really inspiring, and I think it's not just at a level of helping people with their home; it's to all these other levels in getting people gaining more mental clarity, gaining more benefits in their well-being, which I think is really admirable. And I think it's really nice that we have this service via you in our area of Suffolk. It's an emerging kind of area in the UK. I think we've still got a little bit of time to catch up with the US in these sort of things.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, but it's really inspiring that you're kind of leading that forerun in the UK. So thank you so much on behalf of your clients for getting us all sorted out, Lauren, getting all our houses sorted out.
For reclaiming your interiors. There we go.
There we go. There we go. Trademark. There we go.
Had to be done.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, that's everything for this week. If you've enjoyed what you've listened to today, please leave a comment. Also, remember to get in touch with Lauren at the information we've shared. But until next time, my name is Ross Dean. This has been Make Today Count. See you later.